On today's show, Kelly, born in Germany, remember as a child.
It was, I would say, a major culture shock, because some Europeans have never seen African Americans before.
Had a military family.
Military background. And it was challenging growing up.
She saw her Muslim friend got converted.
Saw, even though he was Muslim, he got miraculously converted.
Saw the Berlin Wall came down in Germany, and the wall, did you see the wall come down, or you just picked up a piece of the wall when it came down?
I was actually there when we saw French soldiers, literally, on one side of the wall, the French soldiers had guns.
What? Saw her father pass.
I actually found my father face down.
Even at times dealing with hurt and depression, how she overcame it all and gave it to Jesus Christ.
It was like I couldn't get up, and the pastor said, "Church, we need to pray. We need to pray."
The program that I have for you is going to change and transform your life. Now I have a special guest with me. We've been shedding lights on a lot of things that happen, that occur. And I've been trying to bring some great and wonderful special guests that would give you better information and better inform you to become a much better and stronger believer. And just having a clear understanding of things that happen in our society and in our community. So I want you to stay tuned. And so, I have a special guest with me. I have none other today than Sister Kelly. Come on with the class together. We're blessing out for you. Hey. Well, I'm excited about what God is doing for you, and what He has begun to do for you, and what He has really put in your heart. And I just wanted to bring you on the Spotlights Connection. I want to thank you personally for taking that invite, to just kind of share, your experience and how you came to know the Lord. And it is always a blessing to know that God is always thinking about us. And so, just want to get into it. First, before we start, why don't you just give us a little bit, just a little bit about your background and,
Yes, sir.
And who you are.
Well, I just want to say thank you for having me here. What an honor and a privilege. And, to God be the glory. I just came out of a military family, military background. And it was challenging growing up. I was born in Germany and separated from the majority of my family from most of my life. Wow. And so that was just challenging dealing with just being overseas. And but I got exposure to a lot overseas. I got to travel. I was able to travel to Berlin when they were taking the Berlin Wall down. I got pieces of the Berlin Wall. Yes. Okay. So I saw just a lot of exposure, overseas, and so that was a great learning experience, for me. And then sometimes we would travel. My family would travel to the United States, and connect with my family, And not to cut you, but originally you say that you were born in Germany. Yes, sir.
Literally.
Yes.
So you did have a chance to learn some of the language at an early stage.
I learned some. Yes.
And you had migrated. What age did you migrate to the United States?
We were back and forth, probably in my teens. I think maybe around 8th grade, 9th grade or so.
And so was it a big difference between Germany and the United States? And of course over there in Germany, there's just so many things that goes on, Germany, Russia, all the neighboring country. It just seems like it's just like a war zone, especially for communists, and many of the things that does happen. A lot of history is there. So you really came out of a place that's really, in a country as well that, really and truly probably older than the United States, but nevertheless, what was it like knowing that, the country that you were born in was a communist country? I want you to lead us up because you're going to tell us how you came to Christ. But what was it really like being born in that country? I know your family, your father's military base. You said
he was military base.
Yes, military base. So he was American.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. And but what was it really like being in that environment? As far as you can remember as a child.
It was I would say a major culture shock. you know, because some Europeans have never seen African Americans before.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes they would just stare at you, ask you questions. And we live like even in a German village where like when new people come in the neighborhood, they celebrate. Everyone in the neighborhood brings you food, they bring you gifts, you know, they celebrate your arrival, you know, coming into the their villages. And so that was such a unique experience, you know, just seeing that, like people celebrating your coming into their area, you know. Is very, very culture shock, you know. But I love the traveling all the time, seeing historic sites in Germany. I mean, it was a great experience. It was a really great experience living over there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you at any time, like in your childhood, did you felt like you fit in, or you felt out of place?
I kind of felt like I never fit in growing up, actually. Yeah, I've always felt out of place. I've always felt different. I never really knew God was calling me. I felt something different about me, but I just didn't know until when we came to the United States and I got in high school. A gentleman that was a Muslim at the time, we connected and we used to just always study together. You know, like
the Bible?
No, like just our school. I mean, like our homework.
Like
you know,
like
and we got the highest grades in class. And I saw him. He was Muslim, but what happened was, someone just gave him a Bible one day, and I saw him go through a mental agony just while he was a Muslim, because he kept telling me he was reading the Quran and it wasn't answering things in his life. I mean, and he was just struggling so much, and so he was looking for answers in life. And you know, his father was in prison, his mom was battling with cancer, and so I watched him go through this battle, and then I was an unbeliever, and so that began to put questions in my heart, you know. And so someone gave him a Bible one day, and he began to search the Bible and search the scriptures, and he began to share it with me on the phone, like how, you know, God just started changing his life. He started reading the Bible, and then that person reached out to him. He went to church, then he invited me to that church. But it took a while for me, like maybe about 2 years, but every day he would call me and just kept sharing the word of the Lord with me every day. And at first I rejected it because I didn't understand. I was like, I didn't know God was calling me. I just didn't understand. But when he kept sharing the word of the Lord with me, it was like I felt a pounding on my heart. Like I felt that conviction from God so strong, you know. And then I finally saw him, you know, he just surrendered his life to the Lord. I mean, God just changed his life miraculously, you know. And so within a span of 2 years, I end up accepting Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, you know, because he just kept sharing the word of the Lord with me every day, and it just kept convicting my heart so strong. And then I end up going to that same church he invited me to, and then someone on my mother's job invited her to that same church, and so it was just miraculous how God did that. And so me and my mom went to the same church, you know.
Really?
Yeah, so it was just amazing. So I saw, even though he was Muslim, he got miraculously converted. You know.
So being in Russia though, Germany. Excuse me about that. Being there, were you able to see any religious practice, like Christian practice, like anything of that sort?
Most of what I saw was Catholic. I know there was a service we went to that was very impactful, where it was an evangelist that came on our base. She came all the way from the United States. Wow. And I remember as a child, me and my mother had went to that service, and it was a very powerful service because the power of God moves like so strong in the service, where, I mean, we literally saw, and this was a child before I even accepted Christ. Right. But in that service, I'm telling you, the glory of God was so strong in the service. There was like a cloud, literally. We saw the cloud of God in that service. And I mean, people that were in wheelchairs began to get up out of wheelchairs. Wow. And I mean, I saw people throwing canes. They had canes. I saw them throwing it. I saw people just getting up. I mean, all types of miracles.
What was going through your mind at that time when you were seeing this right before your eyes?
It was just amazing. I thought as a child, how could God visit people like that? It was just incredible to see that. I mean, we saw, when I tell you, as a child, I saw the cloud of God in the house of God. I saw that, and I saw it coming literally like a train in the temple. I saw that. And so, and I remember looking at my mother at the time, and she literally just blacked out. You know, she blacked out because the power of God was so strong in that sanctuary. But I'm telling you, when I tell you the glory of God got released so heavy in that place, even the pastor could not minister no more. I mean, and I just saw the miraculous. I saw people just getting up out of wheelchairs. I saw people throwing canes. I mean, any sicknesses and diseases that were there, it just got eradicated. And I just didn't understand, like, how could God move like that? I mean, that was so life changing for me to see that as a child, you know, and that was even before I had accepted Jesus Christ. So that was just a life altering experience for me, you know, just seeing that God would come into a building in a cloud like that, you know.
Wow, wow. And I tell you, that right there reveals the power and the glory of God manifesting his presence. And, you know, when we look at it, we see how, of course, how the United States of America literally is like, you know, God has used it as the mother of the gospel to really carry the gospel throughout the world because of our religious freedom, you know. And of course today, you know, a lot of that religious freedom is being suppressed, you understand, by politicians and, you know, and of course all of this stuff is demonic influence, but demonically influenced. But as a child, you saw an evangelist from the United States of America literally going into, you know, Germany, preaching the gospel, and miracles was happening.
Yes.
And I think, you know, being in the United States today, a lot of folks like, well, say, I don't see, you know, much people getting up out of chair. You know, you know, I'll be honest with you, watching like the Benny Hinn Ministries, and a lot of ministries, a lot of, you know, evangelists. You know, we see those miracles and we see those signs and wonders when they leave, and God do, you know, work those miracles. I just, you know, the Bible says that where there are sin, that grace is much more abounding, and so where there's a need for the manifestation of God's presence, because some people, you know, I personally believe that God reveals, you know, the works of his hand through the demonstration of the Spirit.
Yes, sir.
And because, you know, it's one thing to preach at persons, you know, to preach at people, but it's another thing to get into a place, you know, where they're literally seeing a manifestation. That's what makes them become a believer.
Yes, that demonstration.
You know, and one of the first things that we saw in Scripture Jesus did, it says to a disciple, throw the net on the other side. Now, when Peter threw the net on the other side, there was such a harvest of fish. It's like, oh, wait a minute. You know, if God can do that, then this is miraculous. So I know you got some more testimonies that's coming up, some greater things that you're going to be revealing to us.
Today we would like to offer you Money in Kingdom Principles, deals with your purpose and dreams and empowers you to gain momentum and life, the successful life you never thought possible. In this book, Prophet Ricardo McCollum digs deep, cuts straight to the heart, offers knowledge to the mind and strength for the spirit.
You know, again, we have Sister Kelly, born in Germany, yes, and literally was raised on a military base. Her father, you know, was in the military, and so she has a very unique experience and was brought up here in the United States of America, and had an opportunity, you stated earlier, to see a lot of the historic site in Germany, and the wall of, you know, did you see the wall come down, or you just picked up a piece of the wall when it came down?
I was actually there when they were taking the wall down.
Is that the Berlin Wall?
Yes, sir. That was the Berlin Wall.
Actually, there when it was coming down. Wow, what an experience!
Yeah, we saw French soldiers, like literally, like on one side of the wall, the French soldiers had guns to keep people from taking the parts of the wall down, and on the other side of the wall, people were just banging at the wall, taking pieces of it down. So it was just amazing. On one side, you know, they had the guns at you, and the other side, it was like freedom, and you can just get as much as you want. So
wow,
yeah,
and that, of course, that was the wall of communists. You know, if I say that right, you know, where for years these people were in slavery, in bondage, and for that wall to come down, the United States and other countries came together and was able to liberate, you know, those people from such a chaotic disaster, demonic disaster, and that's what actually helped to open the door for the gospel to be preached as well. You know, so we were able to get the missionaries inside of Germany, you know, as well, and you know, it was just a great moment in history, and for you to remember. Wouldn't it be cool if we did have like the cell phones that we do have now. You know, and you know, be all over the place, Facebook everywhere, right? You know, all those pictures, and so, a matter of fact, we probably do some live too. But nevertheless, so, you know, you share with us about, you know, how you start to have, you know, a taste of the truth. You know, when the young man was literally a Muslim a believer, and his Muslim ideology, of which he was taught through the Quran and through, you know, the knowledge he gained through his parents or whoever influenced his life, was not sufficient enough, and his mom was actually dying from cancer,
yes,
and stuff like that. But in his chaos, that was actually a situation that was happening with him and his family, was actually pulling him a lot, pulling him closer to God. Wow.
And I saw him go, and as an unbeliever, I literally saw him going through the mental agony of searching through the Quran. I mean, he would call me and tell me he could not find answers in the Quran for his life. I mean, and he was like almost going crazy in his mind. And so I saw the mental breakdown, you know, for him. And this was before I had accepted Christ. So it was like God was doing a work on me, watching him have this mental breakdown, because it was like God was pulling me, but I didn't know God was pulling me. But when I saw him breaking down from searching all these things that he couldn't find answers to in life, he couldn't find a remedy for what he was going through. And then someone out of the blue at our school just gave him a Bible. And so it's like God he was just searching through the word.
Let's talk about evangelism, because, you know, that was so powerful. Just gave him a Bible. I mean,
out of the blue.
Just out of the blue, gave him a Bible and just say, here's a Bible. So you know, most of the time today, as Christian believers, you know, we'll give out a tract. Nothing's wrong with giving out a tract as well. But I heard story about persons that received a Bible, not necessarily somebody witnessing to them, but just put a Bible in their hand.
Yes.
And that Bible become a testimony, literally, in their life, literally turned their life around. And so was destined. And so, like you stated earlier, he became a full-blown believer, and was converted from
Muslim. Yes.
You know, and that's the power of God, because God wants us to evangelize to everyone. He does not want us to be partial, but, you know, there's a way to go about it.
Yes, sir.
There's a way to go about it. You know, and also with the Muslim culture, they like to read. They like to read their Quran. So putting something in their hand that, you know, that they can read. You know, and I'm saying that's wisdom in the spirit. Put something in their hand that they can read, can make an impact if they read it. You know, if they read it. So, what was it like having a military father?
Well, it was challenging, because my father was very controlling. He was very controlling, and so we dealt with that. It was I had a very challenging relationship with my father, you know, because his mindset was just like so strong. It was dominant in the house, and so I grew up under that, and it just caused a lot of conflict. It caused a lot of conflict in our home with issues of control, you know. And
which part of the Army was he in?
He was in Air Force.
Was it? Oh, wow,
and he was like a mechanic and worked on airplanes and everything. Yeah.
Wow. And I know your father is no longer.
He passed away years ago. And I have actually found my father face down in a car garage years ago.
Wow.
And he passed suddenly.
Yeah. Just like that. Did he had an opportunity to know the Lord?
He did. And that's another thing I thank God for, that when I received Christ, God started dealing with me to pray for my father. So I started praying and praying for him, and then you know, God just spoke to me one day and said, you know, I'm going to do this miracle for you. I'm going to do this miracle. I'm going to save him. And God told me to go on a fast. He said, I want you to go on a 21-day fast. I want a 21-day consecration. And during the midst of that consecration, God just told me, he said, your father is going to get saved. He's going to church this Sunday. And so I told my mother, I said, you know, Dad is going to get saved. He's going to go to church this Sunday. And she kind of thought it was weird, you know, like, because God began to just speak to me. Like, when I had got saved, within 24 hours, I just heard the voice of the Lord very clearly. You know, he would just begin to speak to me and tell me things. And I thought the way God was dealing with me, I thought he dealt with every believer like that. But then when I started sharing things God was speaking to me, I began to see that I had a different call and I didn't know what it was. You know, I didn't understand the way God was dealing with me at all. Even at the church I was at, they didn't talk about those kinds of calls, you know. And so that was just very unusual, the way God was dealing with me.
So you told your mom that.
Yes.
And your mom looked at you strange.
Yes.
You know, and you probably was surprised, being the fact that, you know, you heard the Lord says, hey, I'm going to save your father. He's going
Right.
to church. And what you were able to hear in the spirit is the exact thing that literally happened.
Yes. Yes, sir.
You know, that's the power of God. I want you to stare, you know, I want you to stare in this camera. And I want you to talk to somebody right now that is at a place where, you know, you said something earlier. You said that, you know, your father, you know, he was like this controlling person.
Yes.
And it really made it challenging. You know, and it was just really, I mean, you had to bear the print of just being controlled, you know, and you had to really go through. But even though you knew your father's situation, you know, because, you know, there are a lot of things, you know, even though you knew his situation, God gave you spiritual insight of his future. How do you speak into the life of somebody right now that may had a vision just like you, seeing their father being saved, seeing their father be delivered? How do you encourage that person? You understand? Whether to tell their father what they saw or tell their mother, like you told your mother, what they saw. How should they approach that? What confidence should they have? I mean, can you look in that camera? Can you tell them how to be confident about that? Can you tell them? Go ahead.
I would just say to your listeners and viewers that just have your confidence. Let it be in the word of the Lord.
Yes.
You know, even though your times are going to be challenging, keep that trust in the Lord and know that as you're praying for that individual, that God is doing a work on their heart. Trust that God is working on that person's heart, and then just continue to walk in the love of Christ towards that individual, and just destroys those yokes of bondages over people's lives. So fast and pray, you know, as a believer, and you're going to see the hand of God, you know, just begin to eradicate, you know, those strongholds and things like that are over the lives people that you're praying for, you know. So I would just encourage you to just hang on in that aspect, you know.
Wow. You know what I saw in the spirit. You know what I just saw in the spirit? I saw somebody watching this program, and their father is gay. Your father's gay. I saw somebody watching this program. Their father's gay. What would you say to that person? What would you say to that person? Because they're you know, they may be just confused about that.
I would encourage them, their relationship with Jesus Christ, to pray and keep fasting until you see breakthrough over that individual's life.
Yes, sir.
What he's thinking about your father.
Yes.
Thank
you, Jesus.
You got to get to that place, because God wants to reveal to you, and he's going to show. He's already speaking to you. Now you're going to pray about it. That's what you said earlier.
Yes.
We got to pray. You got to believe God that's going to break that yoke. That's what he's going to do for your life. And also, listen, she saw the Great Wall of Berlin. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, the Berlin Wall.
That Berlin
Yes.
Wall. You know, I don't know. You didn't see the statue when it fell, though.
I was there when they were tearing the wall down.
But anyway, she saw persons that were liberated.
Yes.
And transformed.
Yes.
So stay tuned. She got some more. Got some more that's coming up. Hey, stay tuned to the Spotlight Connection. I'll be back after this.
Donation today, we would like to offer you Money in Kingdom Principles, deals with your purpose and dreams, and empowers you to gain momentum and life, the successful life you never thought possible. In this book, Prophet Rakava McCollum digs deep, cuts straight to the heart, offers knowledge to the mind, and strength for the spirit.
We're back, and the Berlin Wall must come down.
Amen. Amen.
The Berlin Wall must come down. And you know, actually, there's some walls and there is some situation in our country and throughout the world. I think what we are seeing today is a lot of persons being ostracized. You know, I'm told so many stories of persons, you know, their hands get cut off or their toes or their, you know, they literally cut them because They remove their parts of their limbs because they are a Christian. And so there's a great level of that weight of persecution that's actually taking place. But his mom was literally dying from cancer. But in that young man, literally turned his life around for the Lord. And that's what we're talking about. So, as we're going into these, final moments of the time that we have on this interview, why salvation is so important. Somebody needs to know, why is salvation so important?
Well, I realized that just going through so many battles in life, it's like you try to bear those burdens on your own shoulder. And immediately, for me, when I accepted Jesus Christ, I remember being in that church. I remember feeling such a heavy burden on my shoulders just from life. And I remember the pastor gave a prophetic word. He said, there's someone here, and he literally called my life out. God just gave him the word of the Lord. And I'll tell you, the spiritual battles that we go through, how the enemy fights us from receiving the salvation. I mean, when I was sitting in my chair, I literally felt the enemy like chaining me to my chair. It was like I couldn't get up. And the pastor said, church, we need to pray. We need to pray. And the church just began to pray. And the more they kept praying, I felt chains like breaking off of my arms.
Hallelujah.
I began to feel things break off of me. And they just kept praying. And then finally, a woman that got in front of me, she turned around and grabbed my wrist and she said, I'm not letting you go.
Come on.
I'm not letting you go. And so I just began to break down in tears. And the pastor kept praying and praying. And I'm telling you, it had to be an angel to release to just chop some chains off of me, because I felt chains break off me. And I just got up from the chair and I walked down the aisle and I received Jesus Christ. And the pastor just helped me in my arm. He held me in his arms and I wept. And when I got to the altar, I felt the hand of God like literally lift the weight off my shoulders. I literally felt that. And so that changed my life. It changed my life literally.
But you know what I just heard? I heard so clear in the spirit that there, even as a pastor, I realized that there are persons, I could make that altar call, but you gave a description that the chain that hold you captive.
Yes.
My God.
I felt them break.
It's not that they don't want to get up, but there's a force that's keeping them.
Yes. And I felt the demonic force.
And from getting up. This is really good. I am literally out of time. Cal, I want to thank you so much.
Sir.
I'm telling you, it is really honest to good truth, a blessing. I just thank you for the experience of of your story and what you have gone through and what you've been through. Well, listen, thank you so much for tuning into the program. Listen to the announcement until we meet again. All right, on the Spotlight Connection. See you.
For any donation today, we would like to offer you Money in Kingdom Principles. Deals with your purpose and dreams and empowers you to gain momentum and life, the successful life you never thought possible. In this book, Prophet Ricardo McCollum digs deep, cuts straight to the heart, offers knowledge to the mind and strength to the spirit. Thank you for tuning in today on our Spotlight program with Prophet Ricardo McCollum. For more details, you can contact us by our information that is displayed on screen. And also, if you would like to be a special guest on our program, you can also email us or contact us by our information displayed on our screen. Don't forget to like us on social media.